Hi BookTube, this is Lindsay from Lindsay Reads. Today, since it's Wednesday and also almost the end of the month, the first month of 2019, I thought I would talk about some of the comics I read in this month. Sorry if I'm a little bit distracted. I have a cat on my lap. I haven't introduced her yet. So this is Winnie. She's a black fluffy cat. And I didn't name her Winnie like Winnie the Pooh because she's not yellow or orange, but because when I got her as a kitten, she would whine all the time for food, to be picked up, to be pet, and so she looks real fancy and fluffy too, so I thought, you know, Winifred as a fancy name and Winnie because she whines. So anyway, let's get back to the what I was going to talk about, the comics. So the first comic I read, and the first actual book I finished in the new year, is Peanuts, Volume 1 by Charles M. Schulz, Shane Houghton, and Vicky Scott. And this, even though it says Volume 1, it isn't like from the very beginning of the the Snoopy Peanuts series. It just gives you snippets from the very beginning. It's comics from the 1960s. And so it was a really nice introduction for me because I had only read some of the comic strips you see in like the newspaper, and I had saw the like most people see the Halloween episode, the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown I think it's called, and like the Christmas special with like the funny tree, and so I wanted to dive into the actual comic, like the comic books, and it was delightful. It was so funny. Like a lot of each page was like its own story, and it was hilarious on those comics. And so this really makes me want to get like a complete set, like from the very beginning, complete editions of each year. And so yeah, that's the first one. The second one I completed is Giant Days Early Registration, and this came out in, sorry, the first one I was talking about, Peanuts, came out in 2012. This one was first published in 2013. But it's called Year 1 through 3, and so it's like a prequel to the Giant Days series. And if you don't know what it's about, it's three girls who are just starting college and set in the UK, and it's, you know, their friendship, what they get into, you know, their friends and the guys they meet, and it's like, you know, their fashion sense and their shopping and, you know, whatever, well, all the stuff they hang out and do. And so this one is like a backstory for each of the characters, and it also introduces how they met and what they were like before going into college. So if you like the Giant Days comics, then you'd like the prequel too. Sorry if you can hear my cat, she's running around like crazy right now. This next one is Black Hammer Secret Origins by Jeff Lemire, and it has a pretty cool cover. I mean, you can't tell, like the girl in the middle is like floating because it's kind of like an alternative to like the superhero comics, because the superheroes who are fighting crime and evil are banished to this small farming town, like in the middle of nowhere, and they have to hide their identity. And so the girl in the picture that's floating, she is actually like 40 or 50 years old, but she's banished to this like little girl body. And so in this farming community, she has to attend elementary school, but she's like has to like prevent herself from like cursing or, you know, or like burning down the school, stuff like that, because she's continually having to go through like 3rd or 4th grade, and so she just despises that. And then so some of the superheroes are trying to be content with their small town environment, and some of them just can't wait to get out. Some of them are trying to, you know, continually find a way to escape. But so far, it doesn't really explain yet why they're stuck there, like what happened, but it does give you snippets flashing back to when they were actually like super fighting heroes. So it's a nice twist on the superhero genre. And I do like Jeff Lemire. I've read a couple of different of his comics. He wrote Descender, if anyone's familiar with that. It's like a sci-fi space robot comic. And so if I didn't mention, let's see, this came out in 2017. It was by Dark Horse. So it's by Jeff Lemire. The artist is Dean Ormston. Okay, so this next one, kind of in the vein of the Snoopy Peanuts comic, is, let's see, Garfield. Let's see, yeah, there it is, Garfield. And it's kind of misleading because it says on this cover by Jim Davis, which is what I thought it was going to be. But it's just taking like the creator's ideas and like the themes he uses, because it's actually written by Mark Evener and it's illustrated by Gary Barker. And this came out in 2012. So I went in assuming that Jim Davis is the one who had wrote it, because I thought it was kind of like the same as the Peanuts comics, where it was just taking you know, Jim Davis's older comics and putting them in this volume 1 edition. But Mark Evener kind of took, like I said before, he took the snippets of like the themes, like, you know, lasagna and hating Odie and things like that into this comic. So I wasn't too pleased with that. I mean, the comic was okay. It wasn't that funny to me. So I definitely for sure want to look into actually reading Jim Davis's real work. Okay, so this next one is another Giant Days. I like this series. And I just happened to get my hands on this this one. It's a holiday edition. It's Giant Days, Where Women Glow and Men Plunder. And it's a holiday edition. It's by John Allison, and it's illustrated by Whitney Koger and Marguerite Savage. And it came out in 2018 in December. And this one is the same kind of thing like when you're talking about the 3 girls. This one mainly focuses on one of their friends, Ed. And he is in a new relationship with like a sporty girl. And he's kind of like a geeky guy. And so he is going to visit her family over the holidays. And it's all about how, you know, he's trying to acclimate to their family environment because, you know, they're all buff and like football kind of people, and he is, you know, like I said, the scrawny like computer guy. And so it's funny how, you know, he's contributing to the group by like helping them with their computer and like their internet and Wi-Fi kind of thing. And, you know, they're, you know, showing him the ropes of, you know, their business and their like sporty activities. Okay, so this last one I'm going to talk about, I just finished, is a colorful cover. It's SpiderGwen, Radioactive, and it's Volume 1, Greater Power, and it's written by Jason Latour, and the artist is Robbie Rodriguez, Chris Visions, and Marcio Takara, and it came out in 2016. And this one, I have never read a Spider-Man comic or Spider-Woman comic or anything like that, but I saw the Spider-Verse movie, that came out last month or 2 months ago. And that movie was really good. If you haven't seen it, you should go see it. Because it's kind of like the Pixar art, like the graphics, but it's like elevated. I was like the best Pixar-like movie that I've ever seen. The colors in that were fantastic. And this Spider-Gwen is in that Spider-Verse movie. And so I was interested to maybe, because I hadn't read any Spider-Man comics, I was like, oh, well, these characters they're talking about, maybe I'll read this one about a girl. And because she's really fascinating in the movie, she's very spunky. And but so anyway, I read this comic, and I hate to say I was kind of disappointed. The story was very jerky, it felt like it kept like flashing, each issue was like kept flashing back in time into different narratives, and it was really hard to follow. The art wasn't that great. It wasn't really my taste. But the story opens with how Spider-Gwen, it's kind of like taking over for Peter Parker, the original Spider-Man, because she watched him die. He became a giant lizard. This isn't a spoiler. This is in the very beginning. He became a giant lizard for some reason. And so she is caught like holding him as he's dying. And so everyone assumes that she killed him. And so it's like a dynamic of, you know, she's trying to save the town, but not everyone supports her because, you know, they think she's a killer. And so it's like kind of a weird, like tug of war with that. So, I mean, if you're interested in reading about SpiderGwen, then Volume 1, this would be a good place for you to start with that. I'm not sure if I would continue with the series, but maybe I'll read like maybe the Spider-Man comic or something like that. I'm not sure. So yeah, these are the 6 comics that I read in January. And tomorrow I will talk about a wrap up for the books I read in January. So let me know if you read any of these or any of these pique your interest. But yeah, thank you. See you soon, BookTube.